Oh my God, it's working. All right, guys, hang tight. Hello. Let's see. I gotta unmute his mic. Hello, Juan. Can you
Hey,
hear
how
me?
you kids doing? I'm sorry, I had a call that I had to finish there, and so give me just a moment. I'll grab my coffee and I'll walk out and we can talk.
Yeah, and then maybe crank up your volume a little bit.
All right. Well, I had some other people talking beside me here, but just give me a moment here, and
Okay.
she's about to hand me my coffee, and I can step outside and we can talk.
All right. Let me see. Okay. Now, real quickly, chat room over here. Can you guys hear Juan? Give me a hand. You can hear him. Is he coming in clear? Okay. All right. They can hear you, Juan. So yes, whenever you're ready, my friend.
All right. Well, just a few moments here. We're close.
You guys, I'm super excited. This is the first time I've used StreamYard like this, and I'm actually seeing his watch in his hand and his boot.
Thank you. All right, there we go.
Oh, I won.
All right, folks. I'm sorry. How are you doing today?
Juan, I am doing great, and I'm just so excited to have you on. I know yours and my schedules have been just not meshing, and I know you're busy. And I just like to give you shit because, well, what about me over here?
Well, the problem is that you know, I've got a couple of people that I'll do something on very short notice with, such as Nino and like that. And sometimes it takes a little bit more to work up for some of them. And so oftentimes, if you hear me on Nino, it's because I just broke free. I got a couple minutes and he'll record something, but it's not live. And it will be sometime later before he actually releases that to the world. And so a lot of times, people think I'm right there at that exact second, and I'm not. That was, sometimes as much as a day or more prior to. There we go. Sorry about that. A day or so prior to when you've heard it, and so anyway, that's kind of the routine there. So.
Yeah, no, you're doing a lot of great shows, and I want you to kind of because I love it when you come on, and I love it how you just go. It's uninterrupted with Juan. That's what I'm going to call our shows, uninterrupted with Juan, because people love to hear what you have to say, and the questions that I have for you today, and you can go however deep or just cut it short, whatever you can. But we're having a lot of questions. Obviously, we're seeing a lot of stuff coming out about the 2020 election, which is huge. Obviously, Tina Peters, man, that is just heart wrenching to see. And then we have a lot of people talking about this third temple that everybody that they want to build, and the doom and gloom. And then now we're seeing all these fakesters being exposed. The one-time Trumpsters, no longer the Trumpsters. Just putting all this propaganda, doom and gloom, and I just get a lot of people like so confused, not knowing who to listen to. But I tell my audience, this is a good thing that they're exposing themselves, because now you can know really who not to follow anymore if you're in fact following certain people. So wherever you want to go with any of that, I mean, there's so much going on from Iran. I mean, everybody's dissing on Trump about that. I mean, he's liberating Iran. I mean, I have Iranian friends that are so excited, chanting his name, chanting America. I mean, it just blows my mind how people are dum-dums.
Let me start there. First off, President Trump, Iran is in this key location within taking down the global cabal, dismantling their mechanisms of control. The way that it has been working is that we, the American people, and then really freedom-loving people around the world, have been in a type of a vice, and we're, there's this terrorism aspect. This, if we don't do the police state, if we don't have these, military everywhere, then we're going to get 9/11 again. And 9/11 2.0 is just around the corner, any given second. On the other side, you have these harsh government controls, and you've got to pay more taxes all the time. You've got to accept all of these increased security features, not just at the airport, but to send a little bit of money to your kid at college, to have some money going through your bank account, that they have to see every penny you spend, where it came from, where it's going. You get a report card. Are you being green enough in the way that you conduct your?
Oh, we lost you. You must be getting a call.
There we go.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah. So StreamYard doesn't let me screen.
Is it cutting you out? Damn it.
So we have to allow the machine, the government, to see and intercept every action we take or might take. And then there's this social normification where you have to work within a certain mental parameter of acceptable speech. Your vehicles have to be of a certain type and green enough and everything else, and then if you don't do that, it's only acceptable to be outside some certain range if you're approved by the government. So if you're the right person, well, then go ahead and fly your jet all over the planet and use up, gazillions of gallons of fuel while everybody else is on their bicycle or their electric bike or whatever. The house temperature's low, because you're going to destroy the planet or something. And granted, we don't want to filthy up the planet, but we're not really, as much as some of these people would like to believe. And then if there is filth going on in destroying the planet, it's usually these ones that are telling us what to do that are behind it. So there's some kind of a control mechanism, a vice put on both sides of society. And the mob's on one side, and they're the mob, and the policing and politics and force to stay within the mold is the same people, the other hand, and they're just squeezing the crap out of us. And so this moment that we're in right now is taking out this other side of the vice. Venezuela, Iran, other places that we're coming to, the vote, the money, the banks. Just so you know, a number of us were all debanked here several years back, and then it's happened again even more recently. A surge of a number of the people that are in the fight at certain levels. The banks just debanked us. And all of a sudden, well, what did I do wrong? Never bounced a check, never overdrew an account. Yeah, well, we just don't want to do business with you because we don't like the things that you're doing or what you stand for. And I remember back, General Flynn and I both were debanked different banks the same day.
Oh, wow.
Years ago. And here just recently, a bunch of us got debanked again. They didn't like the fact that I had all of these payments going to Trump hotels in Mar-a-Lago and things like that. Somebody saw it, and then they act like, well, it's the prerogative of the bank to do business with whoever they want to. So they don't like certain things, and they don't even have to answer. They don't have to tell you why. And I was over in England with a very, very, very well-known politician. And that was one of the first things that we talked about was the debanking problem. He himself had been debanked. And here he is in a critical government position. And they just didn't want to do business with him anymore. So the banks are private. They, said, go pound sand. What are you going to do about it? And very disruptive. Um, so, and the banks, I've got this bond conference. It's a private conference. I've invited people in from around the country. And we're doing that here in about 2 weeks, looking at the bond issues, and especially the school bonds. In my opinion, that's the worst of the worst, something that touches everybody in this audience. When you fully understand exactly what's going on in the school bonds, you're going to be as close to a revolution in America as anything you've ever seen. It's so fundamental, so at the core of this destructive bent for our economy that it's going to be a very hard pill to swallow. I was talking with Ohio Brett the other day, and the stuff that he's doing with high school and college sports. And, I mentioned this whole situation. This is going to be absolutely just shocking to the whole country. In fact, I mentioned got some off here tomorrow, and I suggested to him, you need to do your research and get ready to be debating on bonds, school bonds, and first of all, are they done legally? Is the money being spent lawfully by people that hold their positions lawfully with the right credentials? Things like that. And by the way, out in Ohio, superintendent of public schools, largest school district in Ohio. Turns out he's not an American citizen. And then he doesn't have the credentials to be a superintendent in charge of the bond issues. Well, how come he got to that position in the first place? Because he didn't have the credentials, and he wouldn't have looked right to stop some of the mischief going on in these illegal bond issues tied to people's property. And let me just back up a little bit further. See, when the Pilgrims came here, and then those that followed, and down through time to this very day, people come to America in part because they want to be able to have and hold land. And in these countries across Europe, you couldn't be a landholder. You had to be somewhere within the aristocracy, the royals, who then got the right to have lands. And everybody else was a serf. You couldn't go hunting because you owned the animals in the forest. And so you were just there to serve these royal families. And these royalists had made it so uncomfortable to just be alive at so many levels that the people fought hard to get out. And then they had these recurring secular
There you go.
epidemics about every 20 years, and they clear out some portion of the population. And that's why the Pilgrims wanted to be here so desperately, urgently within the year of 1620. They didn't want to go back to Europe where they knew there was another pandemic about to cycle through Europe. And they were willing to take their chances here. Now, they also got to have and hold their own land. when they got here, property ownership was a key thing. How does that tie to bonds? Because the way that property taxes have evolved here in America with the bond issues, you don't own the land that your house sits on. You're leasing it from the government for all intents and purposes. They attach liens and levies to the land with the bond issues, and then don't pay taxes. And they're doing a tax sale on your property because you aren't servicing, these bonds. Now the bonds are being written and funded and transacted in such unscrupulous ways that they're literally stealing the land from underneath you with the way that these bonds are set up. Illegal, totally fallacious, and it's about to implode. It's about to come off the rails catastrophically. Most anybody in this audience, I probably talked to every last person in this audience, and you would have no real starting place to understand the magnitude of the crisis just ahead. In 2008, when President Bush, in the fall of the year, came out and famously said that they'd had to act within the banking community on an urgent basis.
We're losing you.
Well, I'm not going anywhere.
It's StreamYard. Let's blame it on StreamYard.
Yeah, well, it is StreamYard because what they do is they require so much bandwidth beyond. It's for broadcast quality at highest resolution, and 99% of the audience isn't watching it at that level. So they don't have the ability to dial it back a few notches for what most people are doing. They're trying to sell the future, and the future is not quite here yet on lots of levels, including the equipment that's running it. So they need to have, at least for the host, the ability to dial back the bandwidth transmit receive requirements so that it's not so energy hungry and bandwidth hungry. So much so that, first off, they don't let me shut off a call coming in on a cell phone. A lot of the work that's being done is done on cell phones in this age. And over the phone internet, not necessarily a wireless internet from a building or something where you have greater bandwidth available. So they need to at least have an option with requirements. It's Zoom has it figured out and StreamYard doesn't. They've got some things that are positive that are why people use the StreamYard. Most of the time I tell the host, for the time being, just use the Zoom, and it works for these purposes. I doubt any listener in this audience would be able to see the difference in screen picture quality between Zoom and StreamYard, but they would instantly see the dropouts and the loss of conversation over and over and over again in a StreamYard broadcast versus a Zoom broadcast. Even in places where you have good internet on a landline, because even there, the bandwidth is not what StreamYard's looking for most of the time. In a corporate environment where you're near a T1 line or something like that, fiber optic system, great, but it doesn't suit this type of an application. So personally, I think the Zoom is, you can take
Better.
50 Zoom interviews of people and 50 StreamYards and compare them and the StreamYard ultimately is going to lose 10 times as much during the transmission as what Zoom would in the same transmission. And that includes even from hardware landline locations, just in case. So
I'll
they've
have to
got it
try
on
it.
technology, but they're too bandwidth intensive. So
We'll have to try it.
yep, just so you know.
Just as I figure this one out, now I got to go try something else.
It's actually not. It's the Zoom is actually easier to work with as far as I'm concerned. But good marketing on the part of StreamYard. But the point is that within bonds, let's say you have a school bond and then you have a vote, and the vote everybody agrees to go ahead and raise the levies against property for a school improvement, a new gymnasium, whatever. Then the property has essentially a lien against it, an attachment against it by the government for the life of that bond. And so you have to service that bond cost in order to, can't sell your land unless it's been taken care of. And if you don't service it regularly and pay your assessment, then they'll take your property for taxes. Well, the crisis is this. With what's coming, what was done within the property, within the school bonds, as well as fire, municipal, highways, stadiums, all sorts of other things, trains to nowhere, rail systems. Go look at it. We talk about the train to nowhere up there, monorail to nowhere up there in California, between San Francisco and LA and out to the desert to Vegas and all that. That was, arguably part of the reason for the fires in LA. One of the cities that hasn't been on the radar so far that's got just as bad or worse a problem than anybody is up there in Seattle. And the investigations going on there are just completely, the stuff they're discovering is, it's hard to even get your brain wrapped around in the tiniest way. And I know that they had very high level federal officials up there for the last couple of weeks looking into the issues. And like one of them said, every time you roll over a rock, you expect to see a couple of creepy crawlies and like that. Shoot, roll over the rock and it's a whole nest. Everything is moving and it's not going. So it's just like, oh my gosh, it's not just a couple creepy crawlies. It's like a whole cave of them down there. But the reason that that's important is that it's attached to property. If you can't afford to pay all of these ever increasing assessments against your property, these liens, then you can't own the property and then you can't convey it to your children and grandchildren. These are legal obligations and liabilities of such great magnitude that the people cannot possibly pay what's owed on them. Mitch Wexler, who's one of our speakers that's going to be speaking out in Vegas, has a case before the Texas Supreme Court that he's on standby to come present on. And in what his presentation brings to the fore, it's his assessment, and he's been on this for well over a decade, that at this exact moment there is no option. Every county in America is going to go through some type of a total bankruptcy, virtually without exception. And the handful that don't, the rest of them will take us down with them. And so you won't be immune from what's about to come. Just within school bonds alone, just school bonds, you're about to see 600 banks collapse. Now go back to what Bush said in 2008. If we had not acted when they did, within 24 hours, the problem was allowed to go to the point where they were 24 hours from a systemic collapse of the banking system worldwide. That means that you couldn't go to the bank machine and get cash for your school lunch. You couldn't go to the gas station and use your credit card to pay for gas. In fact, you couldn't go to your gas station and give them cash to buy the gas because the cash register electronic wouldn't work for you, wouldn't allow them to open it up and take the money. And you wouldn't be able to get paid by your employer. You wouldn't be able to pay for services or receive services because the banking system worldwide was on the verge of a catastrophic, cataclysmic, worldwide crash. So they had to step in and do some reparative uh, walkarounds to get past some of the technical hurdles concerning servicing accounts and allowing money to go through. And at the end of the day, the reality is they just printed up mountains of cash and pushed it out into the system to keep the system afloat. Now, what's coming within the bond markets is something that on the low side is 10 times worse than what happened in 2008. And in reality is probably literally 100 times worse than what happened in 2008. So what would be the solution again? To just print money like fiends to service the interest on the debts, not going at principal. Because what they've done is they didn't service the principal. They were just allowing the interest to accumulate to some later time. And then they were rolling over the debt payments to where the actual debt to principal ratio at this point in time, the core uh, body of the loan, is somewhere between, depending on which expert you talk to, 7 and 14% of the debt is actually going towards principal. The rest is all owed on interest, and something they call the rule of 72 now applies, that once you reach a point where the debt is great, the interest debt is greater than the principal debt, your obligation doubles every 72 months to 10 years. And 7 to 10 years, I should say. And so imagine a debt now where it's doubling so fast, you can't possibly service it as it is today. The principal and interest, like a balloon payment's already coming due. And you haven't even got enough money to pay just the interest on the debt. Well, then you can't. It's impossible. It's impossible to get around this. And so you're looking at some type of a financial community banking collapse. And this is why the experts who actually do know what they're talking about, not the pseudo experts, are saying that the paper fiat, digital and paper fiat money is going to have to be increased at such astronomical rates just to service the debt by the banks, the financial system, that, you know, a car that costs $20,000 today would be $100,000. Within 7-8 years, it'd be $500,000 just to pay for all the servicing and everything else. Well, people won't be able to do that. Your water bill, it might be $100 a month now. In the next 7 years, it won't be $100 a month; it'll be $400 a month. And already it's reaching points where people can't service the debt. So then the government comes in and says, if you don't pay what you owe in taxes, we're taking the land. Well, you're not going to be able to take the land of the people here in America in mass numbers without taking us to a for real civil war, a revolution. And that's what's looming out ahead. So there has to be drastic extreme action. In what's proposed, what Mitch Wexler is proposing for Texas, where he's deep in the fight, is that you're going to have a sales tax, and it's going to have to be imposed nationwide by Trump. But it would vary on the sales tax locally based on what the um, debt requirement, service requirement is for these property taxes. And in Texas, it would be for 3 years, it would be 15% sales tax. That's beyond anything else you already have that you would want to have serviced within the sales tax in Texas. It would be an additional 15% sales tax on all transactions. Uh, some states like Montana could get away with 9%. Uh, uh, but many of the states, it might be higher than Texas. California might be as high as 18%, just to get on top of the interest servicing and then pull it down. Now, if you don't do that, if you don't come in and do some kind of catastrophic triage within the economies across the country where these school bonds have gotten out of control, and we're just talking school bonds right now, then you're looking at some type of a system-wide collapse. And that's what Trump is getting ready to do. He's gonna take the money of all these people involved in human trafficking, which includes this type of theft in the bonds like that, and return it in some kind of a sovereign wealth fund to help service some of this debt. Mitch doesn't dial that into his equation because it hasn't happened yet, and he can only deal in the real world thus far. But within what President Trump is working at, that's where this dials in. So this is a far more wide-ranging, deep problem than virtually anybody has contemplated about. It's like I just discovered a new comet, and it's headed for Earth, and it's 5 years out, and it's on a perfect direct impact trajectory. And when it hits, it's 10 times the size of Manhattan. it's it's a extinction level event. So we probably should call the
You do have
bond
people out there
crisis the
saying
L
that.
crisis. Well, so I'm just trying to help people get to understand. So we're having a private meeting on this in Vegas next week, looking at some of these issues with a lot of the experts, some of the federal people like that, agencies. And I just told my chief of staff earlier today that probably we'll need to do something for the broader public to discuss what's going on here. And these things are expensive. I mean, it's quite a load to do it. I don't know if I could do something uh, as large as probably needs to be done here. I'd probably try to engage a couple of other folks to join in and help. I did this one just because I needed to get a start on it for folks. But I think the public does need to understand. Ultimately, societally, we're going to have to address it in order to move forward and to do the beautiful things that we want to do in getting America back on track. But in the interim, this is exactly why we'll see metals prices go up radically. Already, even in something that happened today at one of the largest banks in the world, and I don't want to say specifically, I need to do a little bit more of understanding this, and it just happened earlier today, but they stopped bond redemptions within a certain zone of bonds.
Oh, wow.
That was a monstrously huge move that I believe is directly tied to some of the efforts we have going on right now. For example, in California, the LA Unified School District, they went in and searched their offices. At the same time, they went in and searched the home of the superintendent
Yep.
of LA Unified School District. And then he made a statement the next day to the press and the public and admitted that for 40 years he's been an illegal here in America. So he didn't have the legal authority to be in that position. A lot of people want to poo-poo it off and, well, you know, it was a different era and it was under Reagan and we were trying to sort it out. Okay, why was he allowed to go through the ranks and get all the way to the top of the LA County School District? What other things can be in play? Well, as the superintendent of public schools, you are the person that is putting out these bond issues into the vote system and the public to then be voted on and attach a tax to the property of everybody in that district, largest school district in the country. You have to have certain credentials, both in teaching and in administration, in order to hold that position, so that you can review things like these bond issues, which are core, to be able to put these out to the public. He's not alone. All the law firms, the company that wrote the bonds and then put them into the stock market and things like that, bond market, all of the people involved are supposed to have certain credentials. They really all need to be accountants. And what they've put to the public is illegal on dozens and dozens and dozens of different fronts. And they put their name to it. Literally on most all of these public bonds, the way they're put to the public right now, the people putting them into the vote and then administering them in through the cities and counties and states qualify legally to go to jail for frauds involved in the way these bonds are issued to the public. And I think many of them will, in fact. But in the meantime, we're left holding the bag. And it's not an accident that there's some kind of an imminent technical collapse for the country within these markets. So getting as quickly and efficiently as possible. I'm not yelling fire in a crowded room. I'm saying there is smoke. I suspect there's flames. Move to an exit as quickly as you can, and don't let the door hit you on the ass on the way out, okay? Before everybody else recognizes there's a problem. Get the hell out of the way. And that means, in large measure, don't get caught holding paper fiat. Don't get caught holding digital fiat. Don't get caught holding metals fiat, a promise to deliver silver at some certain point. If you don't have it in your possession, you don't own it. And that's really the case. To be viable through this crisis and catastrophe to the far side when things start to even out and settle out. There is plans to kind of address this and get it under control, but at the end of the day, there's a good plan and there's an evil plan. And the evil plan is to destroy everything everybody in this audience has: their retirement, their property ownership, to convey to their children, their children's children, their bank holdings, the money got hidden under the bed in the box. Whatever you got, they're coming for it. And the only real way to kind of get out of the way of this is to denominate whatever wealth you might have, beyond your own intellect and family, to try to denominate that in things that are tangible, that are useful in a crisis. And since it's sometimes hard to tell, is it tractors? Is it food? Is it other stuff? Is to have a medium of exchange that is commonly recognized as having uh, substance and value, and classically that's been gold or silver.
So, do you think, Juan, that this catastrophe, this is on the horizon the next days, weeks? I mean, we know the 2020 election has to come out at some point. It's not over yet, but I mean, what do you, in your opinion, I mean, what are we looking
Well,
at here?
here's the problem. It's not just who is getting into office and got into office in a fraudulent vote. It's what they then did once they got there.
Right.
And it's also what got authorized under vote fraud, such as these bond issues and things like that. We were getting hit every way that you can get hit. And so the crisis is um, much of this has already happened. It's all going to get unwound. Lots of exposures coming.
Right.
But on the way to get there, you don't want to get trampled over, and you want to kind of a wise man sees trouble and gets out of the way. Okay. Uh,
Amen.
the trouble is going to be in the banking environment, in the monetary environment, politicians. But they promised me. They promised me. I was great. If I followed all the tax rules and I had my 401k, I'm going to have plenty of money for myself and my children. I'd be golfing, my health care and everything else. Look, those were promises by a bunch of lying, thieving politicians. It's one thing to have a baby kissing politician. It's another thing to have a baby eating one. And by the way, again, as extreme as that sounds, what are you hearing with the Epstein stuff? What are you hearing with Wikipedia, WikiLeaks, some of the things that were there? What do you think this pizza thing was all about?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Some of these players are excruciatingly far more evil than reasonable people ever thought possible. And, uh, uh, you know, you were thinking that this was a PG rated horror show, and it may be worse than in Triple X. It's some kind of
Yeah.
a horror beyond uh, anything you dreamed it was. So, for the moment, you don't have to completely understand everything that's going on, how they're doing it, everything else. You just got to know. Uh, Look, I'll bet you in the audience right now, there's plenty of people, and they're saying, well, I don't really understand this. I don't get it. It's for the experts. It's for the blah, blah, blah. You don't need to completely understand it. All you got to understand is that uh, there was some lying, thieving, no good dirt dog monsters working in the system, and they got away with shit. And it's about to come to a head. And uh, for example, I got a message over to uh, the head of a very, very, very large banking group, uh, and said, "Can you look at this bond thing?" This was well over a year ago. What's your thoughts? I mean, I don't see any way out of this. I've got all the records. I got the experts have the records. Am I missing something here? Do you see a way out of this problem? And well, why don't you talk to so and such and so department, and you can explain what you're concerned about and see if they see the same thing, and I'll get back. A little while goes by. This person and I talk. A few weeks goes by. I call back. Have you got anything? He says. Actually, the guy that I got to said, actually, so and so left. He's no longer with us. He isn't? No, he's not. And so I talked with that person a bit. Well, I know there's some concern. Well, then this person that I had spoken with and who had sent me somebody inside their bank goes out publicly, says, well, I don't know if it's 6 months or 5 years, but I know this bond thing is about to collapse catastrophically. I'm abbreviating slightly. And it's going to be a serious problem. It's going to take it all out. Okay. Then I find the guy that actually left that bank. He's gone to work for another group, and they're out doing triage for major corporations, literally moving and positioning to get to hard assets away from paper assets, and to get away from things that may have exposure to the bond situation. And he said, yeah, no, once I came back and showed this, I wasn't the first one. I was the first one to be decisive and emphatic. The crisis is worse than even what you were trying to describe. And that's why I just left. I'm with this other company, and we're trying to triage this to get out of the way of it. I suggest you do the same. It's way worse than what I'm describing. It's an end of life on Earth scenario unaddressed, because
So
it
this is
brings down everything.
so would this be your gut punch that that brings people to their knees? That you always talk near death
No,
experience?
the gut punch was when Trump was arrested. Um,
Okay.
the near death experience, um, it could be something like this. It could be some kind of a nuclear face-off. It could be a combination of things.
But
Um,
when you say nuclear face off, it looks to be that way, or it's actually going to happen.
well, again, um, we got the text that a intercontinental ballistic nuclear missile was headed to Hawaii.
Yeah.
Shelter in place, find a drainage ditch to go hide in, bend over and kiss your ass goodbye. Did you know if you understand how these systems work, some of them aren't as accurate as others. You could be aiming at Pearl Harbor and hit Waikiki Beach. They're not as accurate as you might think. Free falling ballistic missile. Um, uh, in a MERV situation, one could be going to Maui, and one could be going to facilities over at Kona, and one could be going to Honolulu. As they MERV into different sections. As it is, with nearly an hour after the notice went out, the air raid sirens went on, etc. How many nukes hit Hawaii?
Would you freeze?
No. How many nukes hit Hawaii that day?
Oh, you're asking. I don't even know.
Well, did you hear any reports of a nuclear missile blowing up in Hawaii during the first term of Trump administration? No, not.
No.
The alert was there. How many missiles hit Hawaii? Well, if it didn't detonate and it's coming in at the terminal velocity down at the lower atmosphere, about Mach 3, it could have gone kerplunk in the ocean half a mile offshore, and no one would have ever seen it. It's moving so fast. You might have seen a glint of light. You might have seen a splash in the water. You'd have never seen the missile itself. The key thing is the missile didn't detonate. And other things happened behind the scenes with downloading all the data back to from the areas around Hawaii, all the military and like that, back to the mainland. It was actually for another purpose, testing the systems. But at the end of the day, for people there in Hawaii that went through that event that day, that was probably mentally, emotionally, something akin to a near-death experience.
Sure.
When people talk about a near-death experience, a lot of times they will say something like, I didn't realize that my body had died immediately. They're out of their body and they're assessing their surroundings and their circumstances. And they don't fully realize that they're no longer in their body. And it takes a little bit to kind of realize, oh, shoot, I'm out of my body and I'm looking at stuff, people in the room outside the operating room, or away from the site of an accident or something like that. And they're looking at their own body. The people in Hawaii probably were in denial, many of them. This can't be real. It's got to be a mistake. There's just no way. It doesn't make sense that we're going through a warning that we're about to be destroyed in a nuclear strike. And it took a little time to play that out, do the mental gymnastics. And then about the time that they knew it was possibly real, then they got the all clear sign and nothing happened. Will the near death experience for America be something similar? For many people, maybe that's the case, but then again, I don't think so. It'll be something so all encompassing that you won't have the luxury of being unaffected. If you're anywhere in the grid, if you're anywhere in the communication system, anywhere in the services of any sort, you're going to realize something's way wrong, and that it may be somehow the end of America, end of you. The one unique aspect of a near-death experience, you can be in a crowd of people, and a number of people lose their life at the same time. Yet it's a very personal, individual thing. Nobody else dies for you. Nobody enters that next world for you. And it's a very personal, unique, individual thing. Even if we go through it as a nation and collectively realize we may be toast as a nation, you could see it coming on the TV. You could see the system closing down, a 10 days of darkness scenario where the internet doesn't work, the bank machines don't work, the TV's on emergency broadcast system. And in that period of time, unlike Hawaii where it was only an hour, imagine 10 days like that. And you don't know if it's ever turning back on. You don't know if the gas station is going to work again to go get a soft drink, get some gas, and go over to grandma's house. The internet's not quite right. The cell phones aren't right there for you. The satellite phones are turned off intentionally. In that period of time, you've got a lot of time to think and assess, pray. And I think for America, that's closer to what we're probably looking at, some kind of an all-encompassing, very harrowing, more than a gut punch. It's not just a bad hair day. When you have a near-death experience, that's not a bad hair day. Something horrible has happened. You've left this world at some level, and but for some act of God, outside your own ability to orchestrate events, force of will, except for grace of God, you wouldn't come back into this world. And a handful do. And what they describe, it's all across the map. I've listened to some of the people with their near-death experiences. And by the way, let me just add, there's, for who knows whatever reason, there's some of these near-death experiences that are told on the internet that are very convincing, but it's AIs telling it, and it's not the real people. And I question a number of them for their legitimacy, for various reasons. So that's just been sifted in over the last couple of years. So use your own discretion to make sure you're getting it from a real person with a real history. Uh, One of the people that had one here last week, I thought it was interesting. He started out saying, here's my name. I'm so and so, went to such and so school. Uh, my wife's name, worked at such and so location. You can verify any of this. This is my real experience. And then he goes on to talk about he was having a normal day. Absolutely normal. He's watching something on TV, got the remote beside him having a bite. And uh, next thing you know, he was having pressure in his chest and he was out of his body. So he had a heart attack. He gave his age and stuff like that. And then he described the experience in something excruciatingly unique, stunningly unique within what he shared. And he says, I'm telling you, when he first got out of his body, he met Christ. And he said, you didn't have to guess who it was. You knew every fiber of your body, knew exactly who you were facing. And then, got told that he needed to see certain things. And he was only dead for 15 minutes. The paramedics, when they finally got him revived, told him that, his heart was stopped for 15 minutes. And that they had just kept going. They should have stopped, but they kept going. And then amazingly, here he comes back. And then he described what happened. It was very unique. The experience for America in this heart-stopping moment, this calamitous moment, my opinion, I'm not a prophet, I'm not all this other stuff. I'm just telling you that based on how God works, when societies reach this kind of a point, some societies die and they never come back. But I believe this is a near-death experience for America to maybe in part have almost a what's the Christmas tale where the guy sees the three futures or whatever, and something like that for America. And different people will experience it different ways, individual ways. Would a near-death experience for one person be loss of all their wealth, another one all their family, another one their future and their dreams? It'll be very personal, I think, and varied by the individual. But everybody's going to experience some variation of it. And the other thing about a near-death experience is I don't think you'll ever hear someone who has died clinically, usually with witnesses, documentation, and come back, who isn't changed afterward, that the way that they think, act, interact, their goals, their objectives, their values are altered forever. They cannot look at the world the same way. Now, I had a business partner years ago. We raced together and had some other projects together. Beautiful guy. Miss him tremendously. And Tom had been a longshoreman, and he liked to drink, liked to race boats and cars and everything else. He just loved it, and heck of a mechanic. And he'd had a heart attack and had to have a 5-valve heart bypass surgery. Barely made it through all that. He got back, got it together, knew he didn't probably have long. The doctor said, even though he's a young guy when this happened, that, he had young children like that. he needed to make sure he got his affairs in order. So he uh, did some transactions with some things that he had, got some walking around cash, and then went to work to kind of get everything paid off. And uh, we had met up. He wanted to go on a trip, and so we threw our race cars behind the motorhomes, went over to do this one particular thing, and had a great weekend. And got home, and here we'd spent the whole weekend together. Sunday night, he calls me in. We were talking on something. We talked for like 3 hours. Everything in the world, hopes, dreams, um, things that needed to be covered, etc. And the next day, he was out working on one of the rigs, something simple, and had a massive heart attack right there, and died. And it was pretty instantaneous. Things just came apart, and even if he'd been in the hospital, they couldn't put him back together again. What was unique about him is he died on the operating table when they were doing the heart bypass several times. And when he first came out from the operation, he was pretty terrorized, and then and described some things. Then he didn't want to talk about it, and he wouldn't talk about it anymore. When a couple of the other people that we knew over this next series of years themselves died, he wouldn't go in the church. He didn't want to be around all of that. He didn't want to face it. Even his own father, when he died, did not want to go into the church. And it was very bizarre to me. But the other side of the coin is, while it was a near-death experience, it was very harrowing. He didn't want to come to grips with it in a way that was maybe what we would describe as come to Jesus kind of a thing. He still wanted to live his life the way he did, and he wasn't about to make, for various reasons. I mean, he had to understand how he thought, but he just wasn't going to, you know, become church involved. And I think a lot of the people around him, it was hard to find the right way to interact on that. And I had talked to him about, eternal things on a couple of different occasions, but he would just shut off. He didn't even want to go there. He didn't want to even start it. And I was like, you're on a bubble here. You know that. And he just was in some type of very firm denial. And so even though he had a near-death experience, his reaction to it was to be even more firmly against having anything to do spiritual. And that's the reaction that sometimes people do have. I have somebody right now that is in hospice, trying to reconcile things from their life and to, you know, finish business where there's unfinished business in their life. And it's a bit difficult because you gotta maybe make some admissions, adjustments, etc. But I give credit that they're definitely trying. They're trying not to, acknowledge some things, but they're at least trying. Conversely, in both these cases, they had a window to be able to address things and make adjustments. I sent a note over to this person just yesterday, and there's another person that worked in some of these same areas, very, very high rank, and just walked out the door the other day and disappeared. And they're searching right now. Is he dead or alive? Is there, did somebody snatch him? Our side or some other side? what's going on? What is going on? Um, uh, did he have a chance to reconcile his life before whatever happened? If you've gotten that chance, what America is going to get is probably, for the vast majority of Americans, and even to the world, a chance to consider your life, everything about it, your history, and make changes moving forward. Scrooge, that was the Christmas story I was talking about.
So
And
are you kind of correlating this with America? Everybody's going to pick a side. We've heard pick a side. Everybody's going to have to pick a side at some point, right? Because you have these fence riders. So is that kind
I
of
think
what you're
that's
kind of saying?
I think that's what I'm saying. I
Yeah.
think in every lane, it's not just Democrat, Republican, um, Patriot, American versus globalista, uh, goo. The globalistas want you to be part of the gray goo. It just takes over the whole planet. We're all the same. They run everything. There is no nations.
Amen.
And by the way, that's not biblical. In the heavenly city, there's a river that runs through the midst of it. And in that heavenly city, there's fruit trees on either side of this river of life. And the fruit trees give their fruit each in their season throughout the year. And the leaves of the trees, this is really interesting. So you get fruit, which is for nourishment, Genesis 1:29. The fruit is for nourishment, and the leaves of the trees are for the healing of nations, the nations. So there still is some individuality, some differences within the peoples of the world out through time that God is preserving, that they have unique features, characteristics. And God isn't turning us into one gray goo, one great big pool of genes, but into some kind of uh, more advanced culture and civilization where we still retain some individual identity within the different nations and nation states that appear.
So real quickly, Juan, I know you said you had about an hour plus, but do you want to touch on Tina Peters a little bit? And since we're talking about this near death experience, before we go on to that, we heard Trump come out last night talk about the sleeper cells. He was asked by Ducey, the reporter, about the sleeper cells, and that Trump says they're tracking them all. They think they have them all, but I know a lot of people are concerned about that. There's been so much put out there in the fear of just some of the wild things, and I don't like to, put it out there because I just think it's just doom and gloom, right? But what can you speak on that? And then poor Tina Peters. And then, if you don't mind, when you have to go closing us out with a prayer for Field McConnell, broke 7 ribs, is in the hospital, had surgery last Thursday. So, yeah, if you want to touch on a couple of those things, because I don't know how you doing on time unless you have to go.
No, I've just got a minute or two left, but let me just say this.
Okay.
The situation on Tina, Trump said, and I hold him to it, that if they didn't release Tina, he was going to have to take drastic action. I think we're just about there. I backed off. I was requested to ease up and give Governor Polis room to maneuver, to work within the system, the machine, his people, and all that, to give him a little room to save face and not make it look like he was yielding to Trump and political pressure and all that, to do the right thing and let Tina go.
Right.
After he uh, had made some uh, statements, concessions behind the scene that he was going to make sure that Tina got loose, and yeah, it wasn't right, in large measure because he had one of his friends who was a senator from Colorado who was caught doing what Tina was accused of, but she was actually guilty. Tina wasn't. Uh, and then just got a $3,000 fine that she could do some community service, and even that would go away, and probation. Compared to Tina, 9 years, essentially a life sentence, especially for somebody as a cancer survivor. Great disparity in the sentencing. So the governor was like, "Yeah, we're going to work this out." He got a bunch of pushback from his Democrat buddies and people within the National Party. A huge pushback. He's a lame duck. He's not running for office again. He can do it. He doesn't have to worry about getting reelected, but he still has other political aspirations. So, and the people around him. So, where it looked like he would act as soon as middle or end of last week, he's now bunting down the road. And what he's waiting for is for Tina to essentially admit the crime, and then he'll exercise, uh, some restraint and try to address the sentencing. Tina isn't guilty, and there's no way Tina should admit to the crime because she didn't do
Right.
any crime.
Right.
And
She did her
so
job.
that becomes, she's, for all that she wants out under the right circumstances. The moment is coming, and quickly, and President Trump has certain things that are about to happen. But there's checkpoints. It's not a timing issue, it's a checkpoint issue on a couple things that have to happen. Iran was on the charts
Right.
as we move closer to home. Look, you're about, I'll just say it, you're about to see a major arrest. I think it's going to start literally with John Brennan. The grand juries
Oh,
have been moving very quickly on hearing stuff, and it's not related precisely to 2020. It's related to 2024. 2020 actually is further into this stuff, but
right.
the stuff that they've actually been hearing right now relates to things that are very fresh, recent, and will build out to prior stuff. But it's in the 2024 range. When that happens, a lot of information comes out simultaneously, uh, and it's going to be including arrests. I think that rather
Well, we
than,
know, and we know
yeah,
too, they're cheating right now in these preliminaries. Like these
the
people are
primaries are very much a problem. The reason the primaries are such a problem is they get people as the candidate for the fall elections, uh, where you get a choice between bad and worse, and it's
right.
not an actual um, choice between, somebody we want. They cook the primaries. I'll tell you, the state that's the worst of all of them right now, the very worst of all, is not a Democrat state. It's a Republican state, and that's Utah. The things going on in Utah are so wildly unacceptable that I don't know how any citizen in Utah can even look in the mirror. If you're a citizen of Utah and you're okay with what is happening in the way the elections run in Utah, then you're the problem. You personally are part of the problem. There's sins of commission, things that you do, and there's sins of omission, things that you fail to do. You have failed to get your legislature under control. And your elections in Utah, oh my gosh, they're as corrupt as any place on the planet. I would be very embarrassed. And when the bond frauds come to the fore in Utah, you're going to be in as bad a shape as any place in the country. Amongst the 10 worst of the states, maybe the top 5 within the bond fraud. And that's going to affect every aspect of life in Utah. Utah, the criminality in the judicial system, the way that the lawyering works in the state, and then who's getting to public office is the most atrocious of all, and it's being done by Republicans, rhinos, criminals, literally criminals running the state of Utah. You should all be
Yeah.
embarrassed to hell. It's just, and you can feel like, no,
Exposure.
we're good, honest, it's all good. You know what? Some of the worst monsters ever to roam the earth uh, love their puppies and love children and everything else and kiss the baby and all that. And they were still the most evil, wicked, horrible people. You're being run by a cabal of evil within the political establishment in Utah, raping the citizenry financially to outer space. Don't give me any crap about uh, anything in Utah being, you know, uh, uh, on the straight and narrow, because it's not, and it's done in the name of conservatism and by Republicans, rhinos, bullshit. I hope Utah gets hit early and extra hard to wake up the people of Utah. What's going on in your name? What's happening in your state in your name? You should all be ashamed.
Amen. And then, can you touch real quickly on the sleeper cells that Trump was talking about last night?
Well, of course, we've had sleeper cells forever. We've had,
Right.
this is, look, spying, counter spies, triple agents. That goes all the way back to the spies that went into the land to scope out the promised land and then bring back the report. You got spies everywhere,
Yeah.
10 deep. And what's happening, though, is that the destruction inside of Iran, we took out a lot of their banking stuff. Okay, who's paying these guys? Okay, well, they don't want to get paid. They just want to do it for, uh, the good of, Islam or whatever. Well, maybe that's true, maybe not. Uh, this is a head and shoulders shot to take out that reigning ruling party in Iran. And we're far from done.
Yeah.
We're way ahead of where Trump and team thought they might be. These guys have all these aspirations to cause drama and horror and terror and all that. Well, maybe they get away with it here or there. We're dismantling as fast as we could. The alternative was what? Not hit Iran? You think those things were there before or after we started this attack in Iran? Well, of course, it was there long before. And it's been the threat all the way along. If you try to do anything to stop us, we'll hit you. And when we want to hit you, we'll hit you anyway. And you still won't be able to do anything about it because we'll hit you 4 more times and you won't see it coming. So what did Trump do? He's preempting the whole fucking everything about them. Okay? He's going in there and getting them first. And taking out their networks,
Taking names,
financing, and taking out all the other stuff. It's the same thing, we were going to have riots in the streets. Nino was hand wringing. They're going to blow up buildings, kick in doors. They're going to get grandma's house, take it all. And what did Trump do? While we were all listening to Trump inauguration there in D.C. And while President Trump is going through the swearing in and inaugural process, 15 minutes after Trump is become president, I'm getting texts from guys, hey, I just got orders. Hey, I just got orders to report. And I've got 24 hours. I got 72 hours. And these are guys that are in very sensitive areas. Well, and then, of course, they go silent. A week or two goes by. Well, what did you end up doing? Well, we were in the group. We were backup for the police and federal agents. We went out and picked up all of these gang leaders that were declared as terrorist organizations by Trump in those first executive orders. And so they went out and arrested the heads of various crime families like Tren de Aragua out of Venezuela and other groups out of other countries. They arrested the leaders of these groups. And then, by the way, people, let's get them open, let's get them open. The video was there. You had video of these guys getting off the V-22s and out of the airplanes and walking into Gitmo in their orange jumpsuit. Okay, those were the gang leaders, and then they got farmed out in some cases to other countries. Others, we kept them here. What did they do when they got taken in? Well, in the weeks that followed, you had all sorts of reports of gang members transporting bullets and guns all over the country in their vans. Well, these gang leaders talked. They didn't find those things just because it was a traffic stop. Wasn't the way it was portrayed. His headlights were sticking to my eyes, and I pulled it over to find out why he didn't put the dim lights on. Well, the reason that he couldn't dim the lights is because the van was so heavy with bullets that it made the headlights shoot up in the air and right in everybody's face. We had multiple vans where we pulled these guys over. What were they doing? They're transporting bullets. What for? For the Civil War they were going to start. Well, did it start? Well, actually, they had guns but not enough bullets. And actually, the leaders to do it were taken out, and then a bunch of their lieutenants were taken out. The soldiers were left without anybody to run things. Okay, well, they still know how to do things, as the lone guy. They could still be a problem. Yeah, but they're not as organized as they were. And other people were picking up, giving us, well, yeah, I went with this guy. I was with that guy. We were staying here. We're whittling them down. We're reducing the threat level. There's still danger, no question about it.
Yeah.
But the danger was there before we started. It was even worse if you weren't going to try and address it somehow. We've reduced the danger radically. Still got to keep your brain turned on, absolutely. But I do think threats in many ways have been brought down. We still have huge threats from the nation state level. We're about to go after China. Even more than we already have. By the way, Venezuela, that was an attack on China.
Yeah.
Iran, that's an attack on China. It has to do with the oil.
100%. Yeah.
They're ripping all these people off with the oil stuff. And they keep trying to drive the price of oil to the moon with threats against oil supply. It's been up almost to 120, started out at 60. It's at 95 as of a few minutes ago, so the threat's still high. But, it'll be all over the place. By the way, most of what you pay at the pump with these wild prices isn't oil in that spot price, because these contracts are done over years for the oil suppliers. It's a refinery price. And California is finding that out, where they were dumbasses in the government and ran some of the refineries out of the state. They're closing up refineries. Your price of gas is going to go to the moon because they have to bring it in from other states with refineries. Because California shut down its refineries.
Didn't Trump just do something with Texas right now with having a new refinery over there?
Yeah, we haven't built a new refinery in the United States in 40 years. So you got to do something. We got the ability to do stuff better, but anyway, upgrade. So anyway, I've got an appointment I've got to get to, but yeah.
I know you got to go, and anytime you want to come on my show, I know your schedule and my schedule kind of miss each other, but anytime you got some stuff you want to come on and share, you're more than welcome. Mi casa, su casa. But if you don't mind closing us out, maybe for a prayer for Mr. Fields, and I will be sure to send him. I know he adores you, talks about you a lot. I will be sure to send him this podcast so he can listen to it.
Well, when it comes to Field, one of Field's listeners was a stalker, and it was stalking me. Did 3 videos that got about 5.5 million views each.
Recently?
It was World According to Juan. That was, like 6 years ago, 7 years ago now. Okay. And so Field's the one that gave me the stalker's number. I called them to find out what's going on, and they did a beautiful job, and I thanked them for it and like that. And then I went ahead and did a couple of shows with the stalker, and then eventually crossed paths and made a movie with her that called The Makings of a Perfect Day. And then because she knew so much details and everything, I, being the romantic that I am, I knew the only way you're really protected, they can't testify against you if you're married to them. So I married my stalker.
Miss Jen, I love her.
My diet's been managed now. I've actually been on a great diet for a bit, off and on, over the last many months, and it's actually quite amazing. Most animals, they are kind of mono food type of thing. Who would think you could get by on grapes for several weeks? But I think I got my kidneys a bit clogged up on a keto diet with the proteins, and people act like you got to have all this protein and stuff like that, but what do horses eat for protein? They're eating grass. They're not eating meat.
Right.
What about the silverback gorillas and things like that? No. But with the grapes, you can do it with some other foods, but the grapes, the first miracle in the Bible involved grapes, turning the water into wine. And then the last miracle in the New Testament in Christ's ministry was the Last Supper, involved grapes too at the wine. And so there's something in there with that. They have a certain thing about grapes and the way that they take in nutrients and hold them. And so, and in flushing out the kidneys, it was actually pretty remarkable. I had been picking up, a fair amount of water weight, and I'm actually a pretty good eater most of the time with all the travel like that, but I've been picking up some water weight. So just went to a straight grape diet for 3 weeks. And it was amazing. I lost about 30 pounds. And I'll just tell you for your listeners, I haven't talked about this publicly really, but I didn't realize really that I'd lost any weight at all. Didn't really notice it personally, and reasonably good at hiding it. And I was shocked when I happened to weigh myself over in Tokyo, and I was actually just shocked. I was like, wow. And my chief of staff had mentioned it. We were at something, said, man, you're way slimmer. And I said, well, I don't feel it. And I thought maybe I'd lost 5 pounds or something. I'm not exaggerating. That was how I felt. I thought I just lost like 5 pounds. And the only other thing I had other than grapes was raisins and grape juice, not alcohol, but just grape juice. And I was just shocked. And what I noticed is after I finished that, I continued to lose some water weight over the next few weeks, probably just because my kidneys had come back on and were working properly again, liver and like that. So I'll probably do another surge just to come down a little bit further. As you get older, you need to, stay a bit more trim. And I think all the travel and whining and dining like that had probably been cumulative. And and I attribute doing that to my wife. She says she wants to keep me around. I guess, like all good workhorses, you want to get as much out of them as long as you can to make it worthwhile to, before you put them out to pasture. But I'm not getting put out to pasture yet. So,
well, thank God. You be sure to tell Jen thank you for sharing you with us. I know it takes some time from her with you, but I appreciate you coming on here, Juan. And
and I just gonna say that was Field that got us together. So you can attribute that to Field. And then how in the world do you break 7 ribs? I mean, what do you gotta? I mean, what did you get stuck in the vise? who was turning the handle on the vise? My gosh. I mean, 7
I
ribs.
well,
That's a real, you could get hit by your own tractor and not get 7 ribs broken. I crashed a hydroplane. I crashed a couple of cars and I just broke a rib here or there. I never broke 7 ribs. So the only other place I've heard of having that many, I had a gal that was a woman fighter pilot and a Navy fighter pilot, and her compression suit had broke several ribs. I think she got 4 ribs broken because they were too tightened for the women the way that they were doing it. And and by the way, women can take more G's generally than guys can in these applications before they pass out. So they're not in that particular situation necessarily the weaker sex, but getting their ribs crushed by the equipment, that's another story. So but anyway, we love Field, and he has a place in this time in history with what he did and work that he did for a lot of people in the audience here, and he's a good friend, and we'll be praying for him. And by the way, Jen, in the spirit of prayer, she's put together a 517 pack for May 17th, when President Trump has asked us all to go to Washington, D.C. and rededicate America to God's service, and to be there in the National Mall in prayer, not just for that day, but for that day all the way through 49 days of prayer, including the 4th of July. And that we be in a time of prayer for the country. And of course, in part, that's because of what's coming. You ask about, what's going to happen with America. Well, we've got drama ahead. So being prayerful, understanding that, anticipating that should be something that's on all of our minds. And then, by the way, what comes after 4950? Immediately after the 4th of July, which is, the 250th anniversary for America, 5 times 50, 50 being a Jubilee number. That next day, that new day, this new year coming ahead for America, when things get returned, when debts get canceled, looking at the bond stuff and things like that, there's a season ahead that will be very stark, dramatic, drama filled, and we need to be prayerfully preparing for that, including the 2026 midterm elections, everything that's coming. Calling for a season of prayer coming up on that is appropriate. And Jen has a pack, for people that might be going to it, and whether you're going or not, she has a great backpack and some cool stuff in it that's on her site. And then we have the called coin. Those are just going out to people that had ordered them. We've waited on the mint to get it just right. There was something that I wasn't happy with, and unfortunately, because I was traveling, we didn't get it altered and approved as quick as it should have been. But it's going out right now, and so people that had their called coins will be receiving them, and that's pretty cool. They're available over at my site over at Gumroad, allpatriots@gumroad.com. And I have while silver's down under 100, I've got a special deal there that's an extremely good deal for people that want to get a few coins over there. And then Jen's got her site, so a little advertising there.
So what are your sites? Gumroad.com and then Jennifer Mack?
The Jennifer Mack, you got to put the in there.
Okay.
Otherwise, you end up with Jennifer Aniston or something. But anyway, thejennifermack.com, and then allpatriots@gumroad.com for
For
a little
you.
bit larger coin orders and all that. And the deals I have over there are fantastic. Right now, we did something extra special in this window where the silver prices are down a bit. They'll be up radically because of things I told you earlier.
Well, I love it. I'm going to go check it out, and I'm going to try to get you on here as often as I can. And since I figured this stuff out and it works, now I'm going to go figure out Zoom just because you said so.
Well, let me say a prayer with everybody. And by the way, on this bond thing, I am considering I need to have the broader public be able to be aware of this and have a larger conference on this. This is totally private, this one that I'm having in Vegas right now. I got about 100 people that I invited in. But there needs to be broader understanding. I just wanted to make sure that I had a lot of the key people, including government agencies, understanding the magnitude of the issue here and the complexity of it. But there's going to have to be broader discussions publicly with the right people leading those. So I'll be looking at how I can include, your listeners in something larger.
Absolutely.
But
You have a place here anytime, Juan. Absolutely. We're
okay,
being
well,
listened to in over 100 countries, and I'm everywhere. iHeartRadio, Spotify, I'm everywhere.
well, that's extra beautiful. So let me say a quick prayer. Father God, with all the confusion, chaos, intended calamity across the world, we know still that you are king of it all, that nothing moves or crawls that you don't see, that there's no aspect of our lives and our world that's hidden from you. You know what we need moment to moment. You know what threats may be there, personal, community, national, including for our families. We pray that you would use us as your instruments of beauty and life, of support and supply to those around us, our family, our friends, our neighbors, the people we work with, that you would use us as your tools of ministry into this world. We make ourselves available to be instruments in your hands to do beautiful things, important things. We know that there is sickness, there's evil in this world, but we ask for grace and strength in our hands and our minds, our very being, to be able to stand against evil, to stand in the way of wickedness, and to withhold it from entering into the lives of people around us. We pray from a spiritual direction to be sensitive to your will, your way, to do things that please you, Father God, that suit your purposes. We are mindful that we are made of clay, that it is you that gives us eternal life by your Son. By the blood of Christ, we're restored to relationship with you. Without you, we're nothing. So we ask that you be in each one of our lives, our hearts, our minds, and that we would be sensitive to your direction, your influence, and your supply and your support to do good things, important things that fit within your will, to see life preserved and peace in this world, an end of wars, that we would have health and we would be able to help others to enjoy health, free from sickness and disease. We ask you to give us clarity of thought, clarity of mind as we try to walk these things out. We look to your word for guidance. We're sensitive to those that are teachers or prophets that have a word that's genuinely from you and not out of their own imaginations and minds. And we ask for the ability to discern your voice in things, and where it's not your voice, it's the voice of men, to be able to change this world in positive ways, to assist those around us, and for them to be able to stand in truth, righteousness, and be able to also do good. We pray. There are so many people, including children, without number, who their true numbers only known to you suffer moment to moment, day to day, looking for rescue, looking for assistance, looking for love. We offer ourselves before you to be those agents of mercy and kindness and assistance and growth, so that they may enjoy life, not just in this world, but eternally in your kingdom, Father God. We ask you to work in our individual lives. Give us each whatever we need for supplies, not just for ourselves, but for those around us, coming up on and going through some of the traumas that are headed our way, both in this country and across the world. And we ask you for perseverance of heart, wisdom, stamina, and strength to go through all these things and to be approved by you, Father God, because we do it in a way that pleases you and serves your purposes. We pray for Field, who helped so many of us early on, even with his fun and quirky personality, to break free of some of the mental grips that were holding our society, and to give a little levity at critical moments to bridge us through some of the early periods in this fight back to control of our country and the world from monsters who had hijacked it and stolen it from us. We pray that you would put a song in Field's heart from your presence, that you would give him physical strength and stamina to recover and to walk and move amongst us again, and to sing your praises, and give him support emotionally and in his mind, to want to stick through and see some of the fun things ahead as we retake control of the planet from these monsters. In your name, Jesus, we pray it.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Juan. I appreciate it. I know you gave us a little bit extra time than you had. So greatly appreciate it. And let's get you on here a little bit more. Your voice is needed for sure.
Of course. Love you guys. Talk soon.
God bless you. God bless Jen. Thank you, guys.
All right. Good night, folks.
Have a good night.